Good morning. Welcome to Morning Java, special edition here on the weekend on a special occasion, actual sporting thing going on. We're brought to you, as always, by our friends at the Get Go Cafe and Market, where they are not only open for business, they are safe and clean and neat and organized and disciplined, and they're offering 7-inch subs for only $4.99, Carter.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, Get Go right now. You go to any other places where you can get that cafe and market option. You get fresh food, easy food. It's a clean environment. You're in, you're out. And nowadays that's worth a lot because sometimes I'm tired of cooking. There's so much going on.
He's sick of his own cooking, everybody. What we're not sick of is watching the NFL draft. This is Christmas for you under any circumstance.
Oh, absolutely. This is my time.
For the rest of civilization, it's really a breath of fresh air. And the first thing I wanted to ask you about, Carter, before we get to the Steelers' 2 picks that were made on Friday night, is just in general, the show. The ratings are, as expected, through the roof. 37% increase on day one over last year. Almost 16 million viewers when you go across TV platforms, streaming, and everything else here. They kind of really stuck it to everybody who thought this was a bad idea, huh?
Yeah, they really did. I mean, the highest draft watched average on a day was 12.4 million, and that was about 6 years ago. So for them to get over 15.5 is ridiculous. And I mean, it just continues to show how the NFL knows how to put on a show. And this was my point for a while, was just when you look at how the NFL operates, they're about their money. They're about making sure they're the biggest show, they're the biggest investment, they're the biggest thing in the country. And they were not going to pass up the opportunity to be the only sporting event that anyone could talk about. And they've been that for about a month and a half now. And now they've solidified it as everyone's watching it, talking about it. It's the only thing in sports that matters in the country.
They're just the elephant in the room, you know? Yeah. And I get it. Look, I don't doubt for a second when I watch this broadcast, when they say, hey, we're behind you in terms of, raising money for coronavirus-related causes, all of the NFL's long time and passionate dedication to the military and other ventures and endeavors. I don't doubt that those are authentic, but I'm not going to bypass the fact that this isn't completely altruistic. It is, they saw a chance to say, we're the National Football League. We're just going to go right ahead and do this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we are what we are.
I mean, yeah. Like I said, no one puts on a show like these guys. The Super Bowl is the biggest event every year, and the draft has become more watched than some championship games. But across the board, it's always an event. I mean, and media wise, it's the off season. It's the Super Bowl of the off season. You get so much traffic. It generates the most conversation. I mean, how many mock drafts did Dale do that everyone kept reading every week, even though he's just saying, "Oh, I think they could pick this guy. I think it'd be that guy." And even as silly as it sounds, is you're talking to somewhere, you're looking at the picks of someone who has no influence over the situation at all. But I want to read what that guy says and who he thinks they should pick, and
just so that they can envision what might happen on that night. Yeah,
I mean, the hysteria around the draft. It's like a rabbit in a hat, and the NFL pulls it out every time, and we're all just like, "Oh my God, this is amazing!" And it's fun. I mean, and the drama of it, you're seeing, especially right now, you're seeing all these kids in their homes with their families, and you're seeing the reaction of them, and then you're feeling for the guys who aren't getting picked, and they're sitting there and they're sweating like, when am I getting picked? Am I getting picked? And it's just there's so much emotion into that, and it's just it's crazy. All it is Roger Goodell reading a name off a card, but it's so entertaining.
It's only been how long since that Steelers game in Chicago? How long?
About 2.5 years.
Something like that?
Yeah.
When everybody was pronouncing the NFL dead and fading. Yeah. Remember that anthem stuff and everything else. And this is it. That's the end of not only the NFL, but let's go further here. It was also going to be the end of ESPN. That's it. We're done with ESPN.
Please.
That screen behind me that was on for several hours until we started recording here shows who's still king on both fronts in this country. The Steelers ended up with a wide receiver, just like everybody had been expecting the last 3-4 days. It just wasn't the wide receiver that had been rolling off of anyone's tongue here. Chase Claypool from Notre Dame has Steelers written all over him in the project sense, doesn't he? He's not a complete receiver, but he's got tools.
That's the thing about Chase Claypool. I had him as a very good pick for a wide receiver, but in the third round at 102. Because of how big he is. He's 6'4", he's 229, and somehow he still runs a 4.42. He knows how to bully people off the line of scrimmage, and he has blazing speed.
But how would that knock him down your board?
Well, because here's the thing. The reason I had him knocked down is he's not a proficient route runner. He's not a one-trick pony. He's not like, it's not that he only runs deep routes, but he's not, he's not nearly as good as Juju was coming out of USC at being able to diversify his route tree. Now, he can beat you on a slant. He can beat you with other moves, but there was still that incomplete sense that, maybe he needs to work on his footwork a little bit more. Maybe he's depending on his size and his speed a little too much. But a lot of people felt like Denzel Mims would have been a better option. There's other speedsters like Devin Duvernay who had more kind of spectacular one-handed catches than Chase Claypool. But when you look at the way he's built, Dayon, he is humongous, and the combination of the size and speed alone, and he's not just size and speed. He does catch the ball pretty well. He can track it very well down the field. That's a threat that as a cornerback, if I'm big enough to hang with this guy, I'm probably not fast enough.
Doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah. I'm probably not fast enough. And if I'm fast enough, I'm probably not big enough. And that's the threat that he poses. Now, the biggest struggles I saw of Chase Claypool was when a really good technical cornerback could cut him off and just kind of stay in position, and he wouldn't know how to counteract that. But he also didn't have a really good quarterback at Notre Dame.
Well, yeah,
not a lot.
That's a big deal right there. And when you read the criticisms, and that's a fair way to describe them. Mm-hmm. Almost all of them involve the word separation.
Yeah.
What was he doing at the line of scrimmage? Well, and that's because I think that when you're evaluating a wide receiver, that's just one of the boxes that you regularly check. However, please go and ask James Washington how he feels about separation. Mm-hmm. It's not very high on his list. Deontay Johnson, on the other hand, led the National Football League in separation, according to one advanced metric last year. And I'm saying that to his credit. That's not like it's a knock. Deontay made good use of that. But it's a vital check mark. It's a vital component to Deontay's game. It's not to James Washington's game. It's not going to be to Chase Claypool's game. It's not going to matter if he gets a step or two on somebody. It'd be nice, but it's not going to matter that much, because not only is he able to go and make the combat catch, is he able to, out-muscle somebody, out-angle. I saw some catches that he made where initially there was some kind of disruption. He still followed through because he's got these gigantic hands. Mm-hmm. It's not just that. It's that he was able to concentrate, focus on the football, and bring it in at all kinds of different angles and body angles, with footwork involved. The other thing that you notice about Chase Claypool as he's running down the field is he doesn't look like a big man running once he gets going, which is amazing.
And that's the thing, is that his short distance, his first burst isn't the best. That's where he needs to work on. His releases need to be crisper.
And you can do that.
He can absolutely work on that, especially when you got someone like Deontay Johnson that'll be in camp and can show him the ropes.
Because a lot of that, people think that's always technique, and it's not. I'm reminded of something, and I mean, since I cover all of our teams, I end up crossing sports a lot, but something that I learned years ago from Jack Wilson and Freddie Sanchez, Pirates infielders, of course, was about quick twitch muscles.
Yeah.
And in their jobs as infielders, the ball's coming to them, they had to work on highly specific muscles that most athletes wouldn't have to. Weird muscles that you have a difficult time even accessing for workouts, if that makes any sense.
I know exactly what you mean.
Okay. And they would do this because they needed that 1 millisecond of extra spring. If you work on that in the NFL, and boy, do they have techniques for that sort of thing, meaning training techniques, you're going to become more explosive off the line of scrimmage.
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons that Antonio Brown became so great, was because his core strength was so, I mean, and that's one thing Todd Haley said. He said he never saw someone with a better core strength in their core than Antonio Brown. And your start and your stop, when you can control that so well, it's insane. Now,
Claypool, and what are the hardest muscles? To what I was just referencing, the hardest muscles to train, because they're the hardest to access, are all core muscles, all of them.
And if Claypool, he didn't need that as much in college. He had 13 touchdowns last year at Notre Dame because all he had to do was get to his top speed. And even if he wasn't at top speed, when you throw, all the quarterback had to do was throw it over the cornerback's head if they established inside leverage. And usually Claypool was tall enough to snag in a pass and make a big play. That's what I broke down for Carter's Classroom on Chase Claypool. You can read it on the site right now. But Dayon, I just want to remind you, a certain somebody said there would be 10 wide receivers that came off the board by the time the Steelers picked. And guess how many wide receivers were off the board by the time the Steelers picked?
It was 10. Yeah. I mean, we don't keep you around for nothing, Carter. We tolerate a lot.
We tolerate it.
We really do. The Steelers' second pick, their third rounder, is Alex Highsmith, an outside linebacker. Really, the definition now of that position, especially when they're getting after the quarterback the way Highsmith did at Charlotte, is edge rusher.
Yeah.
He is an edge rusher. He was a walk-on at Charlotte. And the Steelers made him a priority. Now, what happened before that? What safety, what running back, what wide receiver might have come off the board that they would have been in love with? The truth is, we're never going to know. Some of us are going to pretend to know, but we're never going to actually know that, because the Steelers aren't going to let that out. Nonetheless, do you like what they ended up with these first two?
Oh, I think so. I mean, they needed a playmaker on offense. They needed a depth player on defense. And, whether one came in at the second or one came in the third, it was about value. And my personal value was Chase Claypool in the third round, but I'm not one to challenge the Steelers' history on picking wide receivers. So if they think this guy's a second round pick worthy, I'm going to yield to that until.
Well, actually, to be correct, Randy Fichtner, who isn't exactly known for BS or PR, gave one of those standard sounding, but I think it was genuine coming from him, sentiments that the Steelers were really surprised that he was there.
I mean, he's an impressive physical specimen. It's just very interesting because now we were wondering who would they get on offense and would they be able to address depth on defense. There were a couple guys who you could say Akeem Davis-Gaither, who was an inside linebacker prospect that people liked, but Alex Highsmith, you like his motor. He doesn't stop, and that's something that's to keep an eye on for special teams, because they really want a player that's not just going to contribute at the depth spot that they need, but on the special teams level. And
let's not forget that when Mike Tomlin had his 30 or 40 second conversation with young Mr. Claypool, he said, and I quote directly, "We're looking forward to having you on two phases of our team." I mean, that's not an accident. He doesn't want anybody coming in thinking I'm Mr. Big Shot with the top pick or whatever else. You're going to be on special teams, son. And by the way, Chase Claypool does have a good, solid history on special teams in Notre Dame. Also, an enthusiasm for him. You know what I mean? He's not one of those guys that just takes it and like it's grunt work.
No, yeah. If you look at his work as a gunner, there's several games if you're working your way through them. I mean, even just in this past year, you don't got to go back into 2017 to find them. But if you go into 2019, I think there was a play against Georgia where they get stopped. He's the gunner on the punt team, and he gets to the punt returner, forces a fumble, and recovers it. There were at least two times, so I can think off the top of my head, he did it this year alone. Having a gunner at wide receiver, and again, a gunner that size and that huge. Normally, gunners are built like Darius Hayward.
There, DHB. I was just thinking, yeah.
And
or for that matter, even Alex Highsmith. I mean, I looked at Alex Highsmith and thought special teams player, not as a denigration. I'm sure they have a higher ceiling for him than that, but he has that look to him. He can get down the field.
He can get down the field, and also when you look at the way that he lines up, they line him up sometimes with a hand down, with a standing up 3-point stance, 2-point stance, moved him more further out on the edge, a little closer to a 3 technique than a 5 technique sometimes. But I really like the way that he seems like he's able to move around and be comfortable with moving around. Highsmith is going to be a guy that's going to have to contribute on special teams. And now they're in a position with these next pick. They had 2 picks in the 4th round. Now that they can say, hey, we got our playmaker wide receiver. Do we want to try and get a depth player at inside linebacker? Because there's a few of those guys floating around. I like Troy Dye out of Oregon. I think that he's going to be an interesting. Akeem Davis Gaithers, who I mentioned, if he's still around, could be an interesting spot. And getting those two, if you got both your linebacker spots solidified, those are 2 spots that you don't got to worry about now because you've got
Carter. The only 2 words anybody wants us to say here is running back.
Well, the problem is, to me, that's out the door now.
I know. I said it a night earlier. I really think the Chiefs blew this whole thing up.
Oh yeah.
I said it the moment Clyde Edwards-Helaire came off the board. That's not to suggest that he would have fallen to the Steelers. We don't know that. I mean, somebody else might have had the same evaluation that Andy Reid had on him. Andy Reid said he said he's Brian Westbrook. He said he's going to be better than Brian Westbrook. Like, wow, seriously? Yeah. Maybe other teams felt that way as well, and maybe we were all a little bit guilty of underestimating Edwards-Helaire and what he might be able to do, certainly in the Kansas City scheme. But I thought they blew it up. I thought – and then you saw – it's funny. The opening to the 2nd round was like this deliberate run on positions that the Steelers needed players from. There went the running backs. There went all the wide receivers. And, oh, by the way, right before you pick, here go all the safeties too,
Because I was sitting there thinking, like, man, Grant Delpit got to the 40s with the Browns. I was like, man, if that guy gets there, and then Antoine Winfield was gone, and I was like, well, because once Winfield and Delpit were gone, then I was like, okay, that's
safeties, right? I said the same thing after those two in rapid succession, and there they went. And that's why I think that evaluating these first couple picks of this draft for the Steelers as if they were positional choices will be a mistake.
Yeah.
I really don't think that's what happened here. I really don't.
I think the Steelers operate like they always do. They have their big board of players. They say who they value the most, and to them, they said, okay, this guy's gone, this guy's gone. You know what? Claypool's still here. We value him here. Which to me, again, I had J.K. Dobbins making it to 49, and I thought I was like, that seems like the pick right there. But they thought they valued Claypool over him. I think that's very interesting. It'll be interesting to see if they go for a running back, because now here's the thing: if you get a running back in the 4th or 5th rounds, that's what you did for Benny Snell and Jalen.
Yeah, you're not putting them on the field. I don't like it. I think at this point, what you do with running back is you do go and get yourself a veteran. I know everybody's all gung ho and focused on Leonard Fournette, and I understand that given what he did to the Steelers here at Heinz Field. But, there are other options out there, and it's not just Shady either. There's guys out there with real credentials who won't cost a lot of money. And as long as the Steelers, and boy, they sure sound like it, are convinced that James Conner is still going to be their guy, then what you're really looking for is insurance policy. You're looking for D'Angelo Williams is what you're looking for.
Yeah, a solid number 2 who can produce. And when James Conner does go down, if he goes down, you're saying, hey, can you plug in for a week or two? Maweldi Moore is another perfect example for what he came in and did for the Steelers back in 2008. You don't need to carry the season, but just know that if we need you in a pinch, you got to come through.
Yeah, with 20 carries or more if needed. I mean, it's as simple as that. And, I don't – maybe, Benny Snell can rise up. I don't know. We'll see.